Welcome. You're on The Fringe Show. I'm your host, Tatiana Zalan, and I go live every Friday at 2 p.m. Dubai time. The Fringe helps you to navigate the rapidly changing world and increase the odds of your success. Here we discuss technologies, startups, and mental models of successful people so that you too can take advantage of the opportunities in the new digital world. And the topic today is indeed very digital, if you will. Is the metaverse our future? For those of you who follow me will probably know that I talk about the metaverse a lot. By 2030, the value of the metaverse could reach something like $5 trillion. And arguably, it represents a paradigm shift in user experience and identity and ownership. It's a new way to be online with new products and services. And so savvy executives need to understand some of the subtleties about their business if they want to go into the metaverse. For example, whether their business is really in the metaverse is really a leap in value or just a technological innovation. And there are two things that prompted sort of the topic for today's show. It's an article in the HBR and McKinsey's recent report on the metaverse. As you probably know, if you're an executive, and then you're probably reading Harvard Business Review, it's really very big and wide readership. 350,000 people have been reading this particular business magazine for almost 100 years. It's quite influential. And McKinsey, of course, doesn't need any introduction. So the show is probably more oriented towards business executives and entrepreneurs. It will be of value to you. The usual disclaimer before I go any further: the views that I express here on my show are my own. They do not represent the official views of any of the organizations that I'm associated with or employees I'm associated with. It's not investment advice either or business advice of any sorts. The Fringe Show is for educational and informational purposes only. I will see whether I can bring up a couple of slides for you, because it will it's just a little bit better that way. I want to share a number of screens with you. And one of them, just starting with the metaverse market map. These are the sorts of segments that exist now in the metaverse. You can see we have experience. Fortnite is here, some familiar names: Twitter and Netflix and Xbox Game Studio. In the discovery segment, you have companies like Facebook and Google Play. Creator economy is really strongly represented here as well, with Unity, Epic Games, then spatial computing. Again, Unity is here. OpenAI, you would have heard probably this name, Google AI. Decentralization, here companies like Microsoft, Dapper, and IBM, and Everlabs, and Polkadot are all doing their bit. The human interface, we have companies like Oculus and Xbox, and Apple is working on it too. And finally, the infrastructure, and that's where the data sits with AWS, the cloud, and Qualcomm, and mobile, and Verizon, AT&T, and so on and so forth. This is something coming from McKinsey's report directly. It's a very recent one, just June 2022. It's in public domain. You can go and check it out. Value creation in the metaverse. And I've put together, so that's from their report, a couple of numbers. And these numbers are quite staggering if you think. They presume they evaluate that by 2030, the value of the metaverse could reach $5 trillion, which is a really, really big number. And then they were looking also at the amount of investments that went into the metaverse in 2021, only 13 trillion. And now by 2022, this really is more than $120 billion. So it's not trillion, but billion. billion. Consumers and brands are already engaging, according to them. They conducted a survey of almost 3,400 consumers and executives on metaverse adoption potential and how it will kind of shift behaviors, consumer behaviors, of course. And they also did in-depth interviews with 13 senior leaders and metaverse experts. So it should be noted, however, these consumers were already trying the metaverse. They were not first-time users. They were using it. And executives, even if they haven't probably used the metaverse themselves or launched their business into the metaverse, they were seriously considering it. Interestingly enough, what are consumers doing in the metaverse? What are they excited about? About social, its relationships, extending the relationships into the virtual world, entertainment, gaming, travel, and shopping. And for enterprises, the use cases are things like marketing campaigns or initiatives, meetings in the metaverse, and so on. So some of the use cases are here, consumer use cases such as virtual assets and gaming and e-commerce, live entertainment, and enterprise use cases in banking, construction, and discrete manufacturing, and so on, like process manufacturing, telecommunications. So there are really credible and useful use cases in the metaverse. But what they also found, and this is where I want to spend a bit more time on, is barriers to adoption. What executives are not certain about, they're not certain about return on investment. And also they're thinking that there is no business model for the metaverse technology. And I would like to kind of zoom in onto it. Let me stop sharing these slides. And I go back to me just talking. Well, I think what the executives intuitively understand here, that there might be some issues with whether they're offering value, whether the business model will be working. And indeed, it's very important to make a distinction between two things: value innovation and technology innovation. And probably market pioneering as well. Value innovation is a term that was coined by Chan Kim and René Maubon in their Blue Ocean strategy. It's a popular framework. Most of the executives would be familiar with it. It's really about opening up a wedge of competitive advantage for a particular firm relative to others, such as to pursue both high willingness to pay from consumers and also low cost. Value innovation places equal emphasis on value and on innovation. It's a leap in value for consumers. It's a path to new, uncontested market spaces, and it seeks to break this value-cost trade-off that we are all familiar with. And interestingly enough, it can be high-tech or it can be without tech altogether. Innovation without value tends to be technology-driven or market pioneering or futuristic. And very often, that's the danger of it, very often it overshoots what the customers are willing to pay for. Technology innovation, unlike value innovation, focuses on creating and delivering technology from which buyers are expected to derive value. It focuses on technology itself, on the premise that once we build it, they will come. And that doesn't really happen all that much, because what we've seen with, say, Motorola Iridium, and I'm sure you know this kind of case study, almost a case study of bankruptcy. Iridium was the global satellite phone company backed by Motorola, and it filed for bankruptcy in 1999. The company spent almost $5 billion to launch its infrastructure of satellites to provide worldwide wireless phone service. And at the time, it was one of the largest bankruptcies in the United States. Iridium's system was based on sort of build it and they will come, build for the whole globe, and then wondering whether you were going to have any customers. Unfortunately, it was a terrific breakthrough innovation, but it wasn't a leap in value. It wasn't value innovation. And this is what's very important for executives to understand, is that what separates winners from losers in any new market like metaverse is neither bleeding edge technology nor timing for market entry that is being market pioneer. A vast new market space will only come to life if this innovation makes customers' life either more productive or more convenient, simpler, less costly, less risky, more stylish, more fun, more meaningful through its positive influence on the world. If you don't have these ingredients, then you don't have value innovation. Clearly, the metaverse is technology innovation, and it's a very futuristic technology too. But the key question is it also value innovation? And that's the question that every executive needs to ask himself or herself. Is there any compelling reason for customers to check in? And after they check in, will they stay? Will there be long-term engagement, or whether it's going to be a flash in the pan or novelty, and consumers will be attracted by novelty? And we have examples in business life as well. And it's Second Life, once a very popular version of the metaverse, which is today a shadow of its former self. It was established in 2003, so almost 20 years ago, and at its peak it boasted 1 million users, so it was quite significant, but not anymore. Now, going to this article, HBR article, which is written by Thomas Stackpole, who is a technology editor at Harvard Business Review. He, quoting a new book, Navigating the Metaverse by Kathy Hackle and others, says that really what the metaverse offers a new way to be online with new markets, new products, and there are three paradigm shifts that we see occurring with metaverse. Well, first, it's experience, because people don't just want to consume. It's far more engaging to have gamified contextual experiences. Then there's identity. People value their digital persona and want to carry it with them across the metaverse and even into the real world. And the third paradigm shift is ownership, or whenever people choose to spend their time, they want skin in the game. They want to own assets. They want to own a piece of the metaverse, if you will. And I just want to make probably a couple of comments here. One is regarding identity. And it's really concerning for me that the kind of authentication that many technology companies are considering these days is biometrics, and not just biometrics, not your fingerprinting or your irises. It's your DNA based biometrics. It is uniquely new, that there is nothing else in the universe that's more unique than your DNA. However, I do find it very concerning that technologists are talking about it, and there are projects that are actually working on it. Another comment that I would like to make is related to, well, the best version of the metaverse, that's according to the article, will liberate users, allowing them to move communities and digital goods from platform to platform, to say from Facebook group to Roblox. So they're talking about interoperable, open metaverse. And I don't really see it happening. All I see happening that these big digital platforms are once again building these digital kind of walled gardens. They may talk about openness and interoperability, but as far as I'm concerned, it's really lip service. And what I like about this article, that it offers a really balanced view. It talks about things that are really good about the metaverse and exciting about it, but also the risks and some of the uncertainties that executives should be aware of. And one of the comments that he's making, the author is making here, is that work isn't becoming play, play is becoming work. If you're expected to earn something in the metaverse, as you're playing, there's play to earn, is a popular business model that everybody talks about. So he ends this up with saying that there are two risks that he sees in the metaverse. Dystopia is one risk, and another one is disappointment. We dream of the metaverse, but end up with a mall. And it's on this mall component, mall risk, that I would like to expand on. To me, this metaverse is really extension of capitalism into the metaverse. Capitalism, by its nature, is an expansive system. It's neither good or bad, it's just the nature of the beast. The globalization project was halted by the pandemic in 2020, and so what companies are trying to find is a new digital frontier, and with almost endless possibilities. And you can almost have a lifestyle in the metaverse. That's one of the comments that I heard at the conference. And I think for those savvy executives that want to understand the metaverse, they also need to understand user behavior and how some people perceive what's real and what's virtual. And because for them, adoption of the metaverse may not go as well as planned. Every local metaverse, say Meta, is a product of creativity of a limited number of individuals. It could be 100 coders, it can be 1,000 coders and UX developers, but it's still a very limited number of people. Every real metaverse, that's the world around us, is a product of millions of people, past and present. It could be authors, it could be artists, it could be movie makers, it could be other creators. And people who find our current reality too complex, they will retreat into the virtual metaverse, because this world and the other world, the virtual world, is a lot simpler. It's actually a thought that belongs to Sergei Pereslegin, a futurist. In the virtual world created for us by digital platforms, the individual is a user and as an object, despite all this hype about creative economies and creative class. For the vast majority of people like you and me, and probably most of you, living in the real world is much more interesting than in the virtual world, because there are so many more degrees of freedom, so many more opportunities than the ones that are artificially created by coders. And I just want to leave you with those two questions for those of you who are listening to me. The first one is the metaverse our future? By the way, it's one of the sentences, and that's taken directly from this article, HBR article. And if yes, then we need to distinguish what's hype and what's real value innovation. So, remember, there is a distinction between value innovation and technology innovation. And it's value innovation that wins. Technology innovation is not enough. And then executives need also to consider consumer behaviors and ordinary users. How many degrees of freedom do you want to have in your virtual world? If you want to have lots of it, you want to be open to as many creative ideas as possible, and probably the metaverse is not for you, because by design, it's quite limited. Let me see who's here and making some comments. Okay, Larissa, thank you so much for being with me. You don't believe Meta is your future, right? Yes, I know, particularly if you mean Meta as Facebook and not just metaverse, which could be useful, it could be open, it could be interoperable, but the way I see it going, it's nowhere near all this theoretical ideal. And Thank you so much for joining, and I will be with you, unfortunately, not next week because I'm going away, and where I'm going away, there is no internet connection. So we'll be back online somewhere in the second half of August. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you in August for the 50th show. Let's see whether we have some music here.